Pierre-Louis is an outfit repeater, okay? I just wanted to talk about my things. And I didn't want to change my shirt. I'm about to go to church in a bit, so I didn't want to change my shirt. So, because, you know, people do that. People change their shirt to make y'all think like, oh, this is another day. But whole time, it's the same day. Hey, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your girl, Iyanna Pierre-Louis, and you are tuned into another episode of the Archives of an Alchemist. It is with great pleasure that I'm in your ears, in your airwaves, on your TV, on your phone, wherever you're listening or watching this. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Archives of an Alchemist. If you are new here, this is where we turn our hardships into gold. And it's with great pleasure. I'm always happy to tap in, to share my thoughts and my revelations instead of keeping them to myself, suppressing. Grr. No more, no more, no more. We're not doing that anymore. So I'm very, very happy that I'm able to share the things that I've learned, because I believe the things that I've learned has offered me such a freedom that I believe will be free for anybody who's in the space to learn and receive and change their trajectory of their life. And yes, it's going to require work. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. And yes, it's going to require healing and things to rise to the surface that are ugly and make you sad and all of the things. But what I can say is once you start dealing with these things and once you start trying to be a different person and changing your trajectory, you're able to see the full hand of God in your life, and you're also able to see who God has created you to be, not what programming has said that you are, not what your current personality says that you are, what God's true reason for creating you, because we all have a reason why we were here. I mean, our chances were literally a billionth of a chance for us, our eggs, to be fertilized and chosen. So we're not here by happenstance. We did not just fall out of a coconut tree. So we are here because God has created a plan for our lives, and it's our choice to choose to follow this plan and surrender our own plans. So now that I gave all of that, because I feel like I have to give it, you know, I don't know who's tuning in for the first time. So I'm not going to act like you know what we talk about and how the vibes are. Things could get super deep because it is deep. It is deep. It is deep. So it's like, I'm not going to act like it's not deep. It's super deep. But you have to be willing to get deep. You have to. Or you're just going to keep on with the same scripts, the same cycles, the same things that had your grandma and your mom bound, the same thing that has your dad not in relationship with you. You're just going to carry that over to another generation? No. You don't have to. Tomato, tomato. Boo, boo. You don't have to. You have choice. We have choice. We have choice. So I'm always going to remind y'all that y'all have choice. And it's going to always be in the first 5 minutes, just in case you want to log off. Because I don't want y'all to think y'all are trees. You have full capacity to move. And I want to talk today about my trip to Canada. Oh, Canada. Hello. My trip to Canada and just my revelations while there. So for those who do not know, if you're first tuned in here, okay, I am a first generation American. I'm Haitian. I come from a strict religious Haitian household. I was told to do all these things, go to school, do that, do that. If I cried too much, I'm sensitive. I came from emotionally unavailable parents, silently a narcissistic mother, and basically a very toxic family dynamic. Okay, now that we're all caught up, that was my experience growing up. So a lot of my thoughts about my parents while growing up were not the best thoughts, especially as you heal and you realize, wow, Was that abuse? Was that abuse? Was I abused? Whoa. When you sit with that, like with that feeling, with that thought, like, ooh, by definition, this is like emotional abuse. By definition. By definition. So once you realize that, it could be a hard pill to swallow. And you have to decide whether you're going to move in light and forgiveness, or are you going to decide to move in resentment and unforgiveness. And we all have choice. And I've decided to move in light and love because I believe that I serve a big God. I serve a big and great God. So it's really doing myself an injustice to hold hate in my heart, because I know from God's word that God will not move in my life if I have unforgiveness, if I have hatred in my heart. So this is all, I'm just catching y'all up for those who are new here. So for the past 2 years, when I first moved to Texas, I did not have conversations or communications with my parents. I did a no contact, and yes, they reached out and they like wished me happy birthday and they kept reaching out. I feel like if they didn't reach out, which I was expecting them to do, if they didn't reach out, I don't know what our relationship would be moving forward in 2024. But because they kept showing like an interest that they still wanted to be in my life, I believe that was God's way of telling me like, heal, but this is not the end. Like, the purpose was not for you to excommunicate forever. The purpose is for you to find your voice. Find your voice again. Find the things that you like. Find who Iyanna is from Iyanna's definition, and not the definition of religion or my parents or culture. Haitian culture, which is like its own set of rules. What does Iyanna want? How does Iyanna feel about her childhood? And for the first 5 months, I processed with the therapist, but the last half of the year, I was just praying about it. I was praying about my heart. I was praying God to fix my heart. I was seeking God a lot more, and God was fixing my heart so I could be in the space when I am in relationship with them. I'm not bringing back the old baggage. And I was praying that God would fix their heart as he's fixing mine, and that they will be in a space to hear me. Because again, I'm coming from emotional, unavailable parents. So that means whenever I would ever say something bothers me, it was never validated or affirmed. It was always downplayed and told that it didn't matter and my opinions didn't matter, because it just didn't fit in the realm of what a good daughter is. Because a good daughter does not say when things bother her. A good daughter adjusts. So I wanted to be a good daughter bad. I was the first daughter of 3. And I was 4 from my brother and 7 from my sister. So I'm big sister. So because of all of these things, it was just immense pressure. And I had to get the F out. Once I was admitted into college, I left. I skedaddled, and that was just for self-preserving, that was just for myself. I can't say that word today, but that was for myself, and I needed to do that because that was the only way God could really talk to me, and for me to actually find who I was through my own lens by isolating and moving out of my environment. So now that you're caught up, this year, I reopened the door for my parents after telling them the things that came up and my feelings of how I felt the last time and what caused me to go in that way. And I had those conversations, top of the year, January 1st. That was the first conversations I had. I talked to both of my parents. And the conversations went well. They acknowledged to an extent, but we're still gonna have to have conversations, and we're still learning each other. And I basically told them, like, your girl's 30 now, so our relationship is not going to be the same relationship that you realized when I was a young teen. When I was a young teen, I didn't have much of an opinion. I really counted on y'all for survival, but now that survival is based on my own and I am more than grown, I reminded my mom, I was like, you had me around your age. You had me around my age. I was born at 29, 30. So it was like, you were a full adult, you had me, and now I am the same age you had a child, which was me. Therefore, the dynamics are different, mama. The dynamics are different, and there's certain things that I'm not going to accept anymore because I'm an adult, and I can choose how I want to be talked to. I can choose who's in my life, and I can choose whatever I want because it's my life. So I'm choosing the storyline where my parents know that they can't call my phone yelling. That's the storyline that I'm choosing for myself. And if they can't abide, I have shown that I'm willing to be okay with walking away because I need to preserve myself. So now that you're caught up, this bleeds into the Canada trip that I had. So I went to Canada. This was me doing the whole olive branch thing because I'm going to travel to not another city but another country I've never been with my dad. And I've never been to this, like I said, and I'm here with my dad. Him and I have had probably the most rockiest relationship, even though as a child him and I were super close, you know, daddy and daughter vibes. But as I got older, we lost that in translation because of just like his rearing mechanisms and how I didn't feel the most heard or anything. And if I ever said anything that was moderately my feelings, I would get reprimanded for it. So it silenced me a lot and caused me to have so much anger pent up when I thought about the relationship with my father and I. But since I've laid that all at the feet of God, and even before I went to Canada, I told God, like, please, my heart, let me not look at things with offense. Let me not enter this to be so defensive and just be prepared for just like bad things to happen. Like, let me come into this space on a new slate. Like, it's okay. And I knew he hadn't seen me since the last time he saw me. It's been 2 years. I have blonded brows, you know, he saw my tattoos, but I think it was just my blonded brows. And just like, you're seeing me for the first time, and homeboy hasn't been the nicest. So I was just prepared for him to say the worst, to be honest. But I had the best time in Canada. I was able to go to Montreal, and I was able to reconnect with not only my father, but also my father's my family. I have family in Montreal. I don't think I've ever been to Montreal. It's my first time ever going. So I've been able to see family that remember me, you know, when I was a baby, but I don't have any recognition of who they are. So I was able to reconnect with people that I dead ass never seen since I was a child. And these people are my dad's cousins. They're all raised in the same town. And my dad was doing a reunion where he reconnected with a lot of his friends that were in the same town in Haiti. And he hadn't seen a lot of these folks for like 30, 20, some of them like 50 years, not seeing them since he was a child. And I was so happy to be there, because although, you know, I'm a very strict gal, but I have a heart on me, okay? People's joy, I love their joy. When people are sad, I feel their sadness. Like, so seeing my dad in a state of joy was beautiful to see, because the dad I know only came with anger and strife, only came with me having to defend myself, only came with me having to feel like I have to prove and show that I deserve to be loved, and come with facts as to why I need to be treated a certain way, instead of just because I'm human, that's it. I don't think I need to convince you, but that's the life that I'm coming from, and that's the relationships that I had when it came to my dad. So here we are in Canada, and I'm able to see my dad's childlike joy, because it's one thing to be with people who know you from college, but to be with people who've seen you as a child, it's a different energy. Because us as children, we didn't know how our lives would all play out. There was a certain level of innocence and joy that we all had as children. And being able to see people who've known you in that space and now see you now, you're able to still see that child in that person. The same thing that society and programming has suppressed, because lives, people have children, people have family, people end up losing loved ones along the way, and life might harden you along the way. Some people decide to keep their joy and keep the things that make them happy as a child, and some will let it throw into the wind to never be rediscovered again. And it was so beautiful to see that my dad was a human. Like, our parents are human. They're human beings. And think of yourself as a human and your experience as a human, and how you're not always going to have it right. You're not always going to realize how your behavior is damaging to others. We're human. We're trying our best. Everybody's trying their best. And I believe this trip allowed me to see that my dad is his own person, like that he just didn't show up in this world as my dad. Like, my dad was also a child, and he grew into a young adult and was an adult that decided to have children and have a family. And now he's divorced and all of his children are grown, and this is a new life for him. This is somewhere he's never been before. This is new territory. And as somebody who's also managing new territory, it helps me realize that I need to have a level of grace. Even with the people that hurt me, even with my dad that hurt me, I still need to have grace and still look at him with the same compassion that God looks at him. And not look at him for the things that he has done for me, but the things that have caused him to do the things that he has done for me. How hard life is, and how people don't even realize that they can choose to still pour out love into the air and not also create more destruction without knowing the cause of their destruction. And because it also made me look into his own family dynamic. Like, according to his standard, he did a lot better than his parents. He did a lot better than his grandparents. And that's really how I have to see it in order to have a level of forgiveness and a level of peace when it comes to this situation and when it comes to our relationship. I have to see that he did the best with what he knew, and that his best just so happened to be better than what he received. Like, if that is the metric, he did do better than what he received. However, it doesn't mean like it didn't affect me, but he didn't have the tools that I have right now to know the effect that it can have. You know, if I wasn't in an informational spectrum of world right now, and if I wasn't as educated as I am, I don't think I'll be able to have this level of insight when it comes to my life and my upbringing and how I'm choosing to do different. I believe I would have probably continued the cycle, because that's all I would have seen around me, and I would have never known that there was a different way of doing things, because I wouldn't have access to any other resources outside of what is around me. And I also have to see the privilege that was of being able to go to college, but not only go to college, but go to a college that was away from home and still be sustained. That's a privilege. I could have been home and I probably would have still been in the same things and not even realize I had a way out and that there's new ways of thinking. My thoughts would never have been challenged. And I can't look at my parents with you should have known better, because how could they have known better? They didn't have nearly as many resources as we have currently. They did their best, and if the metric was better than their parents and their parents, the whole time they tell their story, it's giving abuse, and they're saying it with a laugh and a grin, and the whole time it's abuse. But that's only because I know that that's abuse, and that's only because I'm educated in that way, and I've heard other people's stories, and I have a lot more access. That's the only way that I'm even aware of what to call it, because that could just be called my childhood. That could just be, that's my childhood. That's how I was raised. Everybody was raised like that, because that's what the culture is. So now that I have this level of graceful insight, I was able to see my dad more as a person while I was in Canada. When my dad told me, I never had a mom, I never had a dad, I didn't have no birthday. When I was told that, it showed me that they literally tried their best. He literally tried his best. If the standard is, I've never had a birthday and I'm upset, like, okay, my dad never did the most for me for my birthday, but my dad, he still bought me a little dress for my sweet 16 and the clothes and stuff. He tried his best. Like, that was him doing something completely different and foreign to what he has ever received. And seeing the times where there was try, and although it didn't equate to what my friend's family gave them, it was still a lot for my dad. It was still a good effort for my dad. And that's what grace is. That's what compassion is taking yourself out of your own shoes and your own perspective and getting into the perspective and shoes of the person across from you to gain more understanding as to why they are the way they are. Because truly people are the way they are because of trauma. It be trauma. Oh my God. It be trauma. So because we know that it's trauma, we're gonna be a little bit more gracious when it comes to the parents. But that doesn't mean not establishing boundaries. We're still doing that. But we're gonna start seeing our parents less from what they did while they raised you and seeing them currently now as their own human being. Outside of dad, like, they were a human being. Outside of mom, they were a human being first. Like, they didn't just come into the world first as your parents. Like, they were reared too. They also had secondary school. They also had a mom and dad who they curated and did their lives with. They had the same progression that you did. It might have looked different for them, but get into their story. And I got into the story of my dad. My dad was really open and he spoke about like that. I didn't know he never had a birthday. I didn't know the extent of the pain of not having your mom and dad, because even though my mom and dad didn't, according to me, they could have done better, but at least they were present. I can't say I didn't have a mom and dad growing up. Like, they were present, they were around, and that's a pain and a hurt that I will never know. I only know the pain when they were around. but I could only imagine how it feels to not have them around at all, and what level of abandonment that can etch in the heart of a child, you know? And it really, I really saw him. I really saw him that weekend. I really saw him as his own self. And it also helped me embrace myself. I was able to see my dad for the creative that he is. I was able to see my dad for the way he story tells, and how whenever he's around his friends, he's able to captivate a room and tell a story and have different quips and things that will make you laugh, and change his inflections when it comes to his voice. A little like the way I tell stories. I was able to see that in my dad, because I didn't want nothing to do with him, truly and honestly. Like, saying that I look anything like him, saying that I had anything that was of him was like a racial slur to me, because of the anger that I had in my heart. But since God did a big one, and he removed that anger in my heart, I was able to see myself in my dad and not cringe and not feel like ew. I was able to be like, wow, I do that too. Wow, I didn't know you do that. And just his sense of style. Everybody wore suit ties to the reunion party. Homeboy wore this black and blue long sleeve shirt, leather hat, like a leather beret hat type vibe. It had his Sankofa. He had a Sankofa sign pouch in the front, his jeans, and his boots. His own style, his own way of individualizing himself. Same in terms of individualization and having my own style, having my own way of doing things, and not being afraid to change, not being afraid to be different. I was able to see that in my dad. Like, wow. Because in my house, it looked weird. Like, why you gotta wear that? Why you gotta do that? But as you get older and you realize that everybody is truly a clone, and everybody is trying to dress like the next and do the same thing and not making anything their own, it could only make sense why when my dad would do it, I saw it as a weird thing, because I was trying so desperately to be like everybody else. But it was hard. I've always been the tall girl. I've always been the skinny girl. I was the one who was always Haitian. I was the only Haitian representative at most times in my circle until I went to high school. So my name is Iyanna, and it was the hardest thing. I always knew when a teacher was about to say my name the first day, it was always going to be, they was going to murder my name. I wanted so desperately to not stand out. My dad would always push that on us to be our own individual self, to embrace our culture, to embrace the fact that we were Haitian. And I believe everything sealed and congealed at my time in Canada with him. And I'm so grateful for that time. I'm so grateful that I was able to see my dad finally as the person he is, the person that he has always been, that had to suppress it in order to take care of 3 kids in a country he's never been in. He tried his literal best. So yeah, I just wanted to share that tidbit, and I hope you all can start looking at your own parents as the human beings that they are, and let the offense stay at the door, and really uncover on a new lens, on an adult lens, and build that trust back up, build that relationship back up with a new foundation as y'all all are returning back to self. So it is with great pleasure, and I leave you with love, and hopefully all of the abundance of love that you could ever achieve in this lifetime. Love. Mwah. The Alchemist.